What is up, YouTube? This is Nanashi with a brand new deck profile video, and this time I'm showing off the minor changes and updates I've made to the hi-speedroid Gusto deck. The deck is relatively the same as it was before. I just made a couple of small tech changes to make it a little bit faster and a little bit more compliant with how people are just constantly spamming monsters out, which benefits this deck in the long run as long as I can keep up a similar number. Let me show you what I got. Starting off with the monster lineup, we have a playset of Gusto Eggle. If he's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a level 4 lower non-tuner Gusto monster. I also have one copy of hi-speedroid Malicious Magnet. When it's summoned, you can target an opponent's monster that has a level and use it and that opponent's target as material for a synchro summon. Obviously, because this card exists, I had to make the deck somewhat generic, but it is still all wind attribute as per my standards of play. Next up, we have a pair of Winda, Priestess of Gusto. She's not the best card when it comes to keeping up the battle loop, but with her low attack, she's surprisingly handy. If she is destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Gusto tuner from your deck, which obviously would be your Eggle or your Goldo, the best search card out of this deck. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, doesn't even matter how, you can special summon a level 2 or lower Gusto monster from your deck. We also have Free Pilica, the best combo card in the deck. Upon her normal or special summon, you can target a wind tuner in your grave and special summon it with its effects negated, in defense mode. But if you activated this effect, you are locked into the wind attribute monsters only for the rest of the turn. We also have Triple Speedroid Takata on board. If you control a wind monster, you can special summon him from your hand, and you can tribute him to special summon a Speedroid tuner monster from your deck. But you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except wind. Sounds familiar? We also have one Speedroid Terror Top. If you control no monsters, you can special summon him from your hand. When he's normal or special summoned, you can add a Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand, except himself. Now, the only other Speedroid tuner I run is Speedroid Tri-Eyed Dice, and it's really because it's all I need. If he's in the graveyard, you can banish him to negate an opponent's monster's attack. And finally, we have Cam Serenity of Gusto. I put her down to 1 because the Xyz monsters really weren't helping me that much, so there was no real need to run her in more than 1. Once returned, you can shuffle 2 Gusto monsters from your grave back into the main deck and draw a card. Next up, we have the spell lineup. A pair of Contact with Gusto, the best offensive spell the deck has. You target 2 Gusto monsters in your graveyard and a card your opponent controls, shuffle both into your deck, and then you destroy the opponent's target. A pair of Creature Swap, because 3 is honestly just really cloggy. Each player gives control of a monster they control to the opponent. It doesn't target, it affects the player, which means it's a lot harder to negate than a card that actually does target, which is the whole point of running this spell. 1 Dark Hole, obviously because I can't afford Raigekis right now. 1 Emergency Teleport. Special summon a level 3 or lower Psychic type monster from your deck or hand, and during the end phase you have to remove it from play. 1 Monster Reborn. Obvious staple is obvious. 2 MST. Twin Twisters really doesn't benefit this deck because I don't run Gusto Griffin. And Quill Pen of Goldos. You target any 2 wind attribute monsters in your grave and 1 card on the field, shuffle both of those targets into the deck, and then return the other card to the hand. This is great for instances where Contact with Gusto wouldn't work because since it doesn't destroy, that gets around some problematic cards. Next up we have the Trap lineup. Starting off with a pair of Bottomless, a staple card I try to run in as many decks as possible because it's generically good and I just can't afford strikes right now. Triple Lost Wind, negates the effect of a face-up monster that was special summoned and cuts its attack in half. And if it's in the graveyard and your opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck, it resets itself, but then it banishes itself if it's used again. 1 Solemn Warning, obvious. Triple Switcheroo, which people are constantly questioning the validity of, but then I'm constantly showing them why, and they both love and hate it. If both players have the same number of monsters on the field, switch control of all monsters both players control. And 2 Torrential Tribute for the same reason I'm still running Dark Hole. Massive Field Nuke is very beneficial to me, especially with the new generic Link monster the deck just got. Next we move into the side deck. Starting with a pair of Kamui, Hope of Gusto. A relatively slow monster in today's game, but still could be useful depending on the opponent. When it's flipped, a special summons a Gusto Tuner monster from the deck. Here's the other pair of cams. The additional copy of Quill Pen. The additional copy of Creature Swap. Compulsory, stable in all my side decks. Triple Gozen match, which I am putting in every attribute-based deck I run. Each player is limited to only controlling one attribute at a time, and each player must send all the additional attribute monsters they control to the graveyard. Obviously it doesn't hurt me because this deck's pure wind, but it definitely has some play against certain opponents. Harpy's Featherstorm, a questionable tech I was playing around with, but it's definitely sticking around for the time being. If you control a winged beast type monster, which is both of the tuners are, then until the end of the turn you negate any monster effects your opponent activates, and if I control the Harpy monster, it would allow me to play it from the hand. And if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, I can add a Harpy's Feather Duster from the deck or grave to my hand, which at this time is still banned, but we've seen some crazy stuff come off the ban list recently. It's possible it might come back with some weird eroded restriction. And finally, one copy of Storming Mirror Force. And now we finish up with the very diverse extra deck. First up, we have a single copy of Gusto Falcos. He gives all Gusto monsters 600 attack points permanently, including himself. Next, we have a single copy of Old Entity Hastor, and I summon him way more often. If he's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target an opponent's monster and it becomes Fiendish Chain. But if this card leaves the field after that happens, while in the spell trap zone, I get to take the monster he was equipped to. Next is one copy of Gusto Guldos. Once per turn, I can shuffle 2 Gustos in my grave back into the deck to target a face-up monster my opponent controls and destroy it. It sucks that it targets, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Then we have hi-speedroid Chambara. He can battle twice per turn. If he battles, he gains 200 attack and defense. And if he's sent to the graveyard, I can target a banished Speedroid monster and put it back in my hand. Then we have the main attraction of the deck, the card everyone knows Gustos for, Gustos Freeze. When it's summoned, you take any Gusto card in your graveyard, put it back in your hand. It cannot be destroyed in battle, and any battle damage you would receive from a Gusto monster goes to your opponent instead. Then we have a couple of generic 6 stars. The first one being hi-speedroid Kendama. He does piercing battle damage. I can banish a machine from my grave and inflict 500 damage to my opponents. And if he's in my graveyard and I control no cards, I can special summon him, but I can't normal summon or set during the same turn. The other generic 6-star is Stardust Charge Warrior. When he's synchro summoned, I can draw a card, and he can attack all special summon monsters my opponent controls once each. Then we have Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Once per turn, during either player's turn, I can negate the activated effect of a level 5 or higher monster, and I can negate the effect of a card that targets a level 5 or higher monster. And if it destroys a monster with this effect, it gains the attack of that monster until the end phase. We also have one copy of Gusto Eggles. It banishes a wind monster from your graveyard to target a face-down card the opponent controls and destroys it, but it only does it during your end phase. Now, a lot of people don't really expect this card, but Stardust Dragon is another star in this deck because of how easy he is to summon. If a card or effect is activated that would destroy a card or cards on the field, I can tribute him, negate the activation, and destroy the card. But during the end phase, if its effect was activated and he's still in the graveyard, then you can special summon him back. Now, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon can negate any monster effect during either player's turn, and he also gains the attack equal to the current attack of any monster it's battling during the damage calculation. Totem Bird is just a generic rank 3 monster that I put in here in the event that I go against a more spell trap heavy opponent. By double detaching, I can negate a spell trap, but he loses 300 attack points permanently while he has no material. And the newest addition to the deck, Bladefly. All wind monsters gain 500 attack and defense, all earth monsters lose 400 attack and defense, and if he's destroyed by battle or card effect, I can take any wind monster in my grave and put it back in my hand. And that is the deck. A lot of people probably question why I use such old and oddball archetypes that really shouldn't even be able to operate at a base level in today's game. And that's because, well, they're interesting. Gustos are a prime example of what a battle-oriented deck can do. I love this archetype. It's one of my favorite wind attribute archetypes, and until something comes along that does what this deck does but better, or is an actually better wind attribute deck, I feel like this deck's gonna be here for quite a while longer. I thank you guys for watching the video, and if you can think of any ways I can improve this all-wind deck, feel free to let me know. In the meantime, this has been Nanashi, signing out.